How can you expect any 7-year-old boy to really empower a 12-year-old girl to try her hardest and do her best? Like, it's just they're on, very different wavelengths and different levels.
Hey Ninjababes, today I'm here with Shelle Edge, and we are getting back into some topics and conversation that we were talking about earlier this summer. Just the whole discussion of gender differences in ninja and what does it look like to create a culture and an environment within our ninja gyms and our ninja spaces that feels welcoming to young girls for training, that feels supportive for both genders, that doesn't feel like girls need to be treated in a way that makes them feel less than. It's just, how do we create this culture in our ninja spaces that is truly supportive of everyone and is helping us to gain in strength, gain in our mental fortitude, and do all these things and do it well. So today I have Shelle with me because she has a really unique perspective. She's been working in her gym to produce programming that is 14 girls, and she's done a ton in her gym and just making that environment a really safe space, but also a space where girls feel empowered, they feel strong. And hey, that's what Ninjababes is all about. So I'm excited to have Shelle with us today. And today we're going to get into a lot of different topics, and this episode might end up trailing into 2 episodes, so we'll see. But we have more speakers lined up for this fall that are speaking about the topic of gender differences in sports and how that relates to both the physical and mental aspect of training and of sports in general. And so we actually have a few professors who will be coming on later this fall who have more of a very research-based approach to these topics. So if you guys have questions, definitely email them to theninjababes@gmail.com, or you can DM us at the Ninjababes Instagram. Before we dive into this episode, I wanted to tell you about an important partner of Ninjababes. Propello Life is an all-natural wellness and nutrition company that Ninjababes has worked with for well over a year. I love working with this company because they're family-owned. All of their products are all-natural, non-GMO, and not only do they taste great, but I feel great taking them. If you've ever taken pre-workout before and you feel like you've gotten hit by a truck or your heart is going to explode, their products are not like that. Their products are all natural. They'll give you that natural boost of energy if you're taking the Energy and Focus blend. If you take the pre-workout, you will feel that hype, but it's not the same as some of those other chemical-based companies that will leave you with dry mouth, cause you to overly sweat, and all these other weird side effects. So if you're looking for a company that has great all-natural products, they even have vegan and whey proteins, definitely check out Propello Life. Best of all, if you go over to propellolife.com and use code NINJABABES, all caps, you'll get 10% off your order and free shipping, and you'll be supporting the Ninjababes podcast. So if you're looking for a way to get amazing products that taste great and that supplement your nutrition, and a way to support the Ninjababes, head on over to propellolife.com and use code NINJABABES on your order, and you won't be sorry. Thanks for your support, and thank you for trying out Propello Life. So let's dive into it. Shelle, hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey. So before we jump into our topics, where are you from and how did you find Ninja?
All right. So I am originally from Liverpool, England. Came over to the States in 2009. Funny story, actually, I grew up watching Parent Trap and loved the idea of summer camp. And so that doesn't exist in England. And so I was like, oh my goodness, when I'm old enough to get on a plane by myself, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go find summer camp in America. And that's exactly how I ended up finding New York.
Wow.
And yeah, kind of diving straight into life stateside.
Wait, but did you think that you were going to find your twin when you got to summer camp?
No, I mean, there was kind of like that hope, that would have made the whole getting over here a lot easier. But
that's so cool.
Yeah, like everyone always loves that story. They're like, why America? I'm like, well, actually, Parent Trap is a great film. So yeah, that was always my tale to tell. So yeah, I have always been in fitness. I've always had a background in sports. I was a phys ed teacher back home in England. And then over here, I've been doing a lot of work in healthy living with fitness, group exercise, things like that. And that's really how I found Ninja. I was looking for a part-time fitness job, and my local Ninja gym came up during my search, and I was like, what on earth is this? I'd done obstacle course racing and things like that before, but had no idea that gyms like specifically existed for obstacles. And I went in for my interview and was just kind of like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. Like, this kid's hanging from the ceiling. Like, what is going on? This is so cool. Fell in love with it immediately. And then pretty much the week that I got hired, started training myself and went from there, really. So that's kind of how I found Ninja and Ninja found me.
I love it. It's always a great story. One thing that we've been talking about a lot on Ninjababes is just this concept of, what does it take for girls to be ninjas? And that's like a complex question, because you could be like, it takes nothing. They just need to walk into the gym and that's it. Start training just like anybody else. And that's true. But there's also this other aspect of, it seems that in our culture, there's been this stereotype historically that, women shouldn't look strong or shouldn't be strong, that's something that's been debunked, that so many people in our culture are making, change against, to show that no, women can be strong physically, they can, and there's nothing wrong with it, and you should be proud of it. It's still beautiful. It's not something that we have to be like, oh, I shouldn't really be this way or whatever. So in Ninja, we've been talking about this for a while. Ninja is a sport that so many amazing women have helped us break through and realize that we can be strong. We can be proud of our strength. We think of Casey Catanzaro, we think of Jessie Graff, we think of all these amazing women that people look up to, that are role models and are heroes in the sport. And when it comes down to it on the gym level, sometimes we still have this conflict of, girls come in, we want to train. But sometimes for young girls, I think that there can still be this barrier where if they're the only girl in their class, they still might feel kind of left out or alone, or they might feel all the guys are doing this one thing and I'm not getting it yet. Is something wrong with me? Am I just not as good as them? And so we have these differences that still come into play. And that's something that we like to address with Ninjababes, because we want to continue to promote this culture of empowerment and allowing girls to be proud of their strength and understand what it means. And so I wanted to bring you on today to really talk more about that. So can you share just what has been your perspective when it comes to this topic, and just kind of let's start the conversation.
Sure. So obviously, being a female and in fitness in general, like, it's definitely very challenging. And even though it's kind of like very statement answer, it's kind of like, well, getting through the door is the hardest part. But then I think there's so much more to it, in terms of like, it's not just about the individual's belief and ability to walk through that door and have confidence in themselves. It's all about the culture and the way that the gym kind of accepts and embraces it too. So I think for a younger level, as with most sports, like, it's fairly even, the girls and the boys at like a 6 to 8 year old age category tend to be, very similar, very on par with each other. They don't really notice the fact that there's all that much differences. They're very kind of innocent to the world of stereotypes at that point. And then as they get older, it tends to, start to separate a little bit. What I started noticing at my gym was the older our kids got, the less likely they were to stick with the sport. And I wanted to know why that was. So I started reaching out to a couple of people that I had seen kind of drop off of our roster, mostly girls, tending to be once they hit 11 or 12. And our programming does go up to 13. So I was like, they haven't aged out. Like, what is this? And I started looking into it, and our classes, depending on what level you're a part of, can range from age 6 through 13. And predominantly, it has been dominated by boys, and typically young boys. So for girls to be in a class, especially older girls, to be in a class with 6, 7, 8-year-old boys who are just as good as them, or, still learning the same stuff, but it's just a totally different level of maturity. It's a totally different comfort level. Like, how can you expect any 7-year-old boy to really empower a 12-year-old girl to try her hardest and do her best? Like, it's just a very they're on, very different wavelengths and different levels. So in doing my little bit of research of like, why did you leave Ninja? It was more about the class sizes and the culture and just kind of like the lack, if you will, of others in their similar age category per class. And that's really where I came for the idea of wanting to create a teen girls class. We have an adult program and we have a great kids program, but there was that gap between like 12 and 16, 18-ish when they start coming to the adult programs where, the girls were kind of just they had nowhere to go essentially, and they were still interested in the sport. But, we're struggling to find a way to stick at it and feel good about it. So this time last year actually was the start of our teen girls program. And essentially I just started reaching out to anybody that had been in our system before, who was within the age bracket of like 12 to 16 and was like, hey, like we've got this program coming on. We're going to be doing, very similar things to what the kids do during their classes, but we're also doing some team building. It's going to be a small centered group. We're really going to be focusing on, empowering each other and building confidence and self-esteem and things like that. And it's been phenomenal. Like the growth of that program has just been awesome. Every single session has gotten bigger. We've ended up offering 2 classes instead of just 1. We've had 100% return rate. Like there is a need for this. Like there's definitely a place for teen girls in this sport. And as I said before, it's just a question of making sure that we are providing a environment that will embrace that. Which is something that I kind of set my mind to and have had my heart on ever since.
Yeah, that's so cool to hear. So what do you think really has been the difference then for these girls to want to stick with it? And what have they found in these classes that's different?
Yeah, so obviously I think just a general love for the sport that comes from most ninjas. It's hard to walk away from a sport like this. So a lot of them were really glad to have an opportunity to come back and stick with it. But I think just having like a peer group, like it wasn't just 1, maybe 2 other girls that are their age within a class. Like this was the entire class is on their wavelength. The total mixed ability, we have brand new people and we have people who are competing, and yet just the camaraderie and the way that they kind of like would come together and support one another. And, we'd have a lot of fun and we'd laugh a lot actually. But, they were just really good at kind of encouraging each other. And, if we had people who would fail every now and then on an obstacle or whatever, there was always the more advanced that were kind of like, I remember when that was me and here's how I came past it. And I hear things all the time from the girls that they love the friendships that they've created in Ninja. And we've even had some that have come to support some of them at competitions, just from a sideline perspective too, which I think is very telling to the relationship that they've built. A lot of our classes, not just in our gym, but classes in general, especially sports classes, if they're only coming together once a week for an hour, like it's very rare that everybody in that class will be able to name every other child in their own class. And my girls could, like they knew each other from day one. Like we spent a lot of time focusing right from the get-go on getting to know each other and really kind of embracing that and who everyone was and what a bit of their background was, as opposed to just running through the works of, okay, let's warm up, let's get on an obstacle. We spent, most of our warm-up time actually was spent focused on some kind of team building game, where they were able to get to know each other and kind of break down those social barriers, in a structured way, so that they were able to build friendships and not just strength and love for sport, but then they've got that connection there too, which has been great.
Yeah, that friendship is so key. Absolutely. And I always love the friendship aspect of Ninja myself, but I guess it was maybe back in June or May, I had put out a question on Ninjababes that was asking like, what does Ninjababes mean to you? And so people had given their answers and filled out like this Google form. And so many of the answers that I got from teen girls and adults kind of aired on that side of, they talked about a lot of different things, but one of the main themes was friendship. Yep. And just that camaraderie between women and girls. And, you see your strength growing and you see this bond between other athletes growing, but it's also that friendship of like, I'm here to support you and I want to know you. I want to support you through this journey of growing your own strength. But I love that key piece about friendship. So it's cool to hear that that's been echoed and like growing in your gym.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
In Ninja, obviously girls come in and then they they learn ninja skill, they learn how to grow their, strategy and all these different things within ninja. And then obviously strength is a huge part of that. Have you seen in your teen girls program that girls, as their bodies change physically and as they grow in strength, like what has been their reaction? Have you tried to help foster their mindset or their body image in any way as they grow in strength?
Yeah. So, strength, as we look at it, it comes in like different stages, right? So one of the things that I kind of have broken down right in the beginning of the program starting last year was kind of like, these are the changes that you might see. These are the changes that you might feel. And, we want to talk about them. We want to embrace it. And if you guys have any questions, like, you can absolutely bring them to your coaches at any point throughout your ninja sessions. So, like the first kind of thing that people would typically notice is that feeling of strong, right? Like there's nothing quite like overcoming an obstacle for the first time. And so, kind of feeling physically strong, knowing you can hold your body weight with your hands, or knowing that you've got the leg power to get up a wall or whatever the case may be, the feeling strong tends to be the first thing that hits. But then when looking strong comes into play, that tends to be something that, that's more of a self-conscious kind of perspective, especially for teens. They're going through a lot of changes outside of ninja, just a lot of things that are out of their control. And yet here we are noticing these physical changes in their bodies that they kind of have control over, right? Like they have the choice whether or not they want to get stronger or they don't, and kind of embracing this change for them and with them. So, we've been able to celebrate like these physical changes that they are feeling, but really seeing a difference. I mean, it does come over time, but embracing it and, recognizing how strong that they look and how amazing they feel. And it's something that we also pick up on a lot when we are in class. And, like, especially, how to handle failure, right? Like they're coming off of an obstacle. If they maybe didn't get it quite right away, definitely focusing on that. But you know what? You looked really strong. Like you were able to build your swing up so fast. You didn't waste any swings on that. Like your arms look great, like whatever the case may be, and kind of embracing that. But it's definitely something that we talked about right at the beginning of the session, of kind of like, these are the changes that you might see as we go on. And I think having female only coaches who have been in the sport for a long time also, like, it gave them something to aspire to. It was kind of like, there's nothing scary about muscles. Look, here's mine. And it would be kind of like, do you see anything scary about this? Like, how do you feel if you look at me and you kind of imagined yourself in my body, but in, a couple of months' time, like, how do you think you would feel? And we had those conversations, which I think was really important and very eye-opening to them. The feeling of being strong, they have loved it. A lot of them have expressed how amazing it feels to, go back to school or whatever and be on par with the boys when it comes to the pull-up challenges and things like that. And others of them have, been really embraceful of their body changes, like, changing through their teenage years and things like that. That's out of their control, but this is something that they can really embrace and feel good about.
Yeah. And I like that you also pointed out that, when you're on an obstacle, even if you've fallen off of it, if you're looking strong in the sense of like, look, your body is functioning correctly, like you're able to build up your swing, you got so far on this one obstacle because you could climb that high or whatever it was. Yeah. It's like pointing out the value and what your body can do. Mm-hmm. And it's not just about what your body's looking like. So I think sometimes like that, in the past, at least when I was a child and I was growing up, it was all about looking in magazines or seeing on TV these like super skinny models or people that we would call role models or look up to, but it was all about like, how thin could you be? Right. And then for me, going through that experience of always wanting that, and then when I started to go to the gym and started to gain strength, I had that moment of, oh, what's happening? Like, I feel good, mm-hmm. but I'm seeing my body get bigger, and isn't that supposed to be a bad thing? So having to realize that shift and realize that, no, like I'm growing strength, that's a great thing. Right. And yes, I'm gaining body mass, but that's not negative, that's positive. Yeah. And so I think, I do think, I could be wrong, but I do think nowadays it's not exactly that same issue for girls, maybe in some circles, but I think there's still comparison and there's still body size and body image challenges.
Absolutely.
But I think that's why it's important for girls to realize that it's not just about trying to fit a specific physique or a specific look. It's about realizing what what do those muscles do for you?
Right.
Like, what is the point of having them, and why is that a good thing?
Mm-hmm. Yep. And kind of just like, putting together the missing pieces of the jigsaw too. Like we go over every session with all our kids and our adult classes too, like what their goals are of the session. So if, somebody's got a goal of wanting to reach the top of the 14.5-foot wall, well, what does it take to get there? And so when they start then breaking down, like, well, I need my speed and I need my leg power and things like that. It's kind of like, okay, well, do you think that, teeny tiny just bones and skin is going to get you up there, or are you going to need to build some muscle? Like, what is it that's going to give you that power? Like, how do we build that? And when they kind of understand the mechanics of it and how amazing the human body really is, it just gives a completely different perspective. And so we really try and talk through that and talk about it. The coaches who work with our kids are also personal trainers, so they've got like that anatomy side knowledge as well as Ninja, and so they found it really fascinating, honestly, to kind of like, oh, that's what that does, or oh, cool, like that muscle that I can see here, that's responsible for my laches, or whatever the case may be. Especially like forearms, grip, like all that kind of thing, like things that they can see and they can feel. But yeah, really embracing those differences.
I love that. Yeah, that's really cool to be able to recognize that and talk about it so openly. I think that's really constructive and healthy. I know you had shared a few of the like personal testimonies and stories that some of the girls from your gym had been sharing with you as we were getting ready for this episode.
Mm-hmm. This was a conversation that I had with one of my girls who's been in the sport for a while, but she was in, the co-ed setting before my program existed. And she was one that I noticed had kind of like dropped off of the rosters a little bit. So when I reached out to her with this program offering, she was super excited. She'd done parkour before, she's been interested in competing and shown a lot of dedication to the sport. And so I basically just had a conversation. I was asking, like, what is it about Ninja that you love? Like that kind of conversation, but also kind of, is there something specific about being a part of a girls only class that you enjoy? And she basically said that her favorite thing is that they can truly be themselves and they can help each other learn new skills really fast. And, that it's okay to be a girl and to be strong. And she learned that in this program, just surrounded by other girls like-minded with the same goals as she did. And that was like a really awesome statement for me. Like that was kind of like this is why I do what I do kind of statement, which is great. She said that, it gives her confidence to do things that she wouldn't normally be able to do. So yes, there's that physical component, especially overcoming obstacles, but there's so many mental obstacles too that everybody has to face in life in general. And I think Ninja really helps us be able to give ourselves a different perspective and to really strengthen our minds and kind of, you develop this, I can do this attitude. And that's so applicable to multiple areas of life. But something that they can pick up of early on in a sports setting is something that I think is really, really, really important and really cool. And she said, she got a lot stronger doing this class. And she thinks that more girls should have this offering so that they get the chance to feel as good as she does, essentially.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm wondering, I'm sure there's gym owners or other girls listening who would wonder how they could have girls only classes at their gym. And I think something would be, if girls want that, they can tell their coaches, tell their gym owners and see, maybe it hasn't crossed their mind or maybe they didn't know there'd be enough interest for it. Mm-hmm. But if it's something girls are looking for, I think they should voice that to their coaches.
Yep. For sure. And, part of it, we had a couple of people that joined that very first session who had been a part of Ninja before. But I'd say it was probably about 50-50 with brand new people who had never found Ninja. And honestly, some of them found the sport because it was a girls only program. They've been looking for something that, football wasn't their thing. Sorry, soccer wasn't their thing. Again, they're so confused because I'm British. Soccer wasn't really their thing. Basketball wasn't really their thing, like whatever else they've tried in the past. And so have been looking for that same kind of program that is girls only, and then found Ninja and just fell in love with it. So, it's definitely, it gives you a baseline. It gives you somewhere to start. If you do want to kickstart a program, like always go back to the resources you've already got, get the buy-in from the people that you've already seen. But there's definitely a need for it, even if they've never walked through your gym before. And that's kind of really cool. I also liked to reach out to, some of the kids that I knew had older siblings and kind of be like, hey, why don't you try this? And for the most part, it was, well, I'm shy, or, oh, well, these kids are really young and they're really good. And that was like a nice angle into of being like, oh, but did you know that we actually offer this program? So that's been like a really cool take on it. But honestly, I think it really just takes drive. It just takes somebody who believes that there's a need for it. I think my program and the girls that have given us these testimonies, like, it proves that there is a need for it. And, to me, the more we can spread a program like this, and the more we can get girls feeling great and getting into the sport and staying with the sport, the better. I think, statistically, once you capture somebody and they're kind of in that sport during their teens, it's something that they will tend to carry through into their adulthood. So that crucial kind of tween and teen early on years is really important. So yeah, I would encourage anybody that wants to go ahead and start something like this, just to get the ideas rolling. Talk to your owners, talk to your gym owners, email me if you wanted to kind of figure out where I started. But go for it, because there's definitely a need for it.
For sure. Yeah. And we'll definitely link to your email in the show notes of this episode. But as we're talking, like, I'm thinking about girls I know who are in programs that are co-ed classes, and they love it and they're proud, and they have a great support from the guys in their programs as well. So, you might be a girl who's listening to this thinking like, oh, I don't know if I really need that. Should I need that? And it's like, no, I mean, if you're in a program that's already doing a great job in the co-ed, I would just encourage those girls to continue to reach out to their friends, people who maybe stopped coming, and ask them why, and ask them, was there a reason that you stopped coming? What was it? And really foster those conversations and those questions. And if you're a teen girl who finds that some of your friends from the past left because of reasons like we're talking about, you can bring that up to your coach, or you can see if you can invite them back and really, bring that support to them. If they're coming to a co-ed class, make sure you talk to the girls who are there if they're seeming left out or something like that. So to really just keep it moving.
Yeah, for sure. And there is, as you said, a lot of people that can totally embrace the co-ed setting and they have no issue with it whatsoever. I think what's special about a program like this is that it reaches that little niche, right? It gets those that wouldn't otherwise be involved with the sport, it brings them back in. So it wasn't necessarily a case of, me wanting to go in and pull all the girls out of a program to form a new class. It was just kind of like, okay, they're all doing really well. Who isn't doing well? And why is that? And is there something I can do about it? Which that's how the class came together.
Yeah, I love it. In a later episode, we're definitely going to be talking more about just kind of like how can we bring our guys together with the girls more in like a positive way, because I know that it's something I think about a lot personally too. Like, I grew up with older brothers. I grew up being used to hanging out with guys, playing on, in the trees, climbing with guys. Like, I'm used to having that brotherhood in a positive way. And I know that's not everyone's experience, but how can we help better foster our environment to make that something where the guys feel comfortable interacting with girls? Because I think sometimes in our culture now, guys feel like, oh, I don't want to do something wrong and be seen in a bad way. Like, how can we continue to build this friendship cross-gender in a healthy way as well? So that's definitely something we're going to be talking more about.
Absolutely.
Woohoo. Well, Shelle, thanks so much for being on with us today. I know we're going to be talking more in the next couple of weeks, but thank you for joining us. And I'm just so pumped to share this with our community.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Be strong, be you, be a Ninja Babe.